Anything.
All right, here we are, gentlemen. Welcome back to Calling All Men, the summit of summits. We are here talking to 70 great men this week, all through Sunday night. And our next guest is one of them. So if you're catching this video as a live stream right now, I want to invite you, if you've not yet gone to the main site and registered, there are 50 interviews there. There's a different theme for every day. And today the theme is relationships, marriage, being a good husband, being patriarch of your people. And you can find some great interviews over there. It's free. So you go there and you put in your name and email, and you just you join us with these other men. Here, if you want more live streamed live interviews where you can interact with us, we're right here on Facebook.com/Calling All Men Summit. Like the page or follow it. Get notified for the rest of the interviews coming up. And if you are a fan or a friend of Gabriel, our next guest, and you're watching from there, big welcome to you. We are going to hear about his life story. We're going to hear about the wisdom that he has to share, in particular about preventing divorce and waking up as men to take aligned action. So Gabriel Kazan, rhymes with Shazam, is a rogue therapist, consultant, and men's intimacy coach who guides and trains men using a challenge-based combination of crazy wisdom and powerful decision-making and Canadian accent, I added that in, frames designed to create clear leadership in both business and family in order to become irreplaceable and ultimately have it all. Gabriel is the author of the 2022 best-selling book for men, Alive on Purpose. Unclench from fear and step into your power with backbone, heart, and both balls. Sorry. I'm ad-libbing a little bit here. It's just balls. Gabriel's mission is to help men become lions through self-mastery by connecting to the voice of God within them, provoking deeper freedom in sex, relationships, health, and wealth. One of his superpowers is helping men prevent divorce by guiding men through a challenge-based coaching intervention. He and his wife and family live in the mossy mountains of Western Canada. How far from Jordan Peterson, Gabriel?
We're in totally the opposite side of the country. Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's in Toronto.
Toronto, yes.
Yeah.
I love your accent because it reminds me of him. I'm a big Jordan Peterson fan. Yeah, so Gabriel, welcome to Calling All Men.
Thank you. Stoked to be here with you and be inside this conversation and with such a powerful project. And really, it feels like timely. I love that you even started the introduction by talking about being patriarchs, because that's the game I'm playing too, is to just really remember, like, I am the patriarchy, and it is good because we're here to lead, and we're here to lead well, and break through all of the dogmas that hold men back.
Yes, I love what you said there. I am the patriarchy, and it is good. Amen. Yes, in the family I grew up in, patriarch and patriarchy were not dirty words. They were sacred words. Being a patriarch was an honored and role of responsibility for a man that he had to earn up to and live up to. A righteous calling. So, Gabriel, if you don't mind, how do you know the term patriarch? I don't know, from your past, your upbringing, and maybe you can give us a little bit of your upbringing. Were you connected to your father growing up, and what was your invitation into manhood and being a patriarch?
Well, yeah, my dad was a farmer, and so I did a lot of work with him in a lot of the ways that absent fathers, because of the way the modern life separates fathers from families. I was blessed because he was always around and he always had work for me to do. So we did get to connect a lot. And he was a king of the land and growing grapes and growing chickens. Farmers' work is never done. And he put me into hockey, and that was our thing. Being Canadian, I grew up playing competitive hockey. But something happened to answer your question around the word patriarchy when I went to school. And I think this is part of the capture of academia, is this funny thing happened with, I don't know, however many 40 years of feminism inside of that organization, is the word patriarchy became a dirty word and a scapegoat for all the ills and problems of the world. And then going further down my path into training as a therapist, I was also trained by a lot of women. As you know, the world of therapy is dominated by women. Numbers wise. I know you have Warren Farrell on this week, which I'm excited about. And he talks with all the data around all of these changes in different sectors. But it was work. It was work to go through that as a man, and the man that I am, and have to come out the other side and put myself back together because of what academia has become. And so because it makes this dirty word, and it creates this this contract where of blame on men and shame and self-loathing, and it's all in there, but it's all hyped up as this intellectual virtue signal. And
Yeah, it's there's very
we're
much
on the
like
other side of that, I feel like, and that's why I'm grateful to be part of this conversation, because men are doing the work and transforming and going in different directions with what we need to do.
Yeah, it's very much a war of words that is being played out right now, from toxic masculinity to the evil patriarchy as the source of all humanity's problems. It's the culture wars operate through shame and shaming and exclusion. And it's to hear Jordan Peterson talk about it. He talks about it as like, this is the feminine form of aggression. Males, we tend to be more physically aggressive. Females tend to do it more with their words and through kind of social putting down or gossip or excluding. And it's like, this is the war against men, shaming our leadership, shaming us, for daring to be great leaders, for daring to take that responsibility and lead our families.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd love to hear about the work that you do and the group of men that you've assembled. I'm assuming most of them are local up there in Canada. I don't know.
Some local, and I also have online groups, so they can work with me from anywhere. And it's really about solving practical problems, and the practical problem of being the man. And when we're inside the conversation of marriage mastery and preventing divorce, then we got to look at the stresses upon relationships, on families, and upon men. And I like to break it down into 4 really clean categories. Body, like your physical unit of, this is really all you have sovereignty over, right? This 2 arms and 2 legs. And then being, your certainty within yourself, your connection with God, your direct communication with that great mystery, and your willingness to get out of the way and do what is required to listen to that voice. Third is balance. And that's the relationships that matter most. The woman in your life, the children that you're raising, your team, your partners, and how to stay in good relations so that you don't have to sacrifice one thing for another thing. And then finally, business, like the literal flow of money through your bank account. And, you know, I don't know if I can swear here, but unfucking the mind from all the programming of victim mentality and relearning how to contract and to create value and to build business, or, you know, and even for men who don't identify as businessmen, I always flip that script and I say, you know, if you have money coming in and out of your life, you are a businessman. So
Yes.
start to think of it that way, you know, start to think of
Yes.
it that way. And then along these four domains, body, being, balance, and business, there's an axis, and it keeps a man on axis when he pays himself every day. He invests every day in keeping all four of those kingdoms strong and striking his sword, which is his attention, wherever he needs to on the daily, to fill the buckets of the people he loves, to fill his own bucket, and to keep generating, keep giving, keep showing up. And that's what we get inside the coaching, is how to stay on axis. Because a lot of the time men will have massive abundance in one area of their life, like their business is thriving, but their health falls to shit, you know, and they let the body go, or they drop the marriage and family ball. And when we're playing the game of juggling, they say that all the balls are rubber, they'll bounce, except one ball. The one ball you can't drop is the marriage and family ball, because it will break. And you don't want to drop that ball. So how do you have it all? How do you step into the game of leveraging your leadership and making those decisions every day to be the man and to rise up and to come out of collapse, come out of addictions, to come out of all of those traps and pitfalls. So I'm just riffing here. That's some of the game, but the real truth is, I feel like there's also a psyop in making divorce popular and making an easy out for adults these days who just want to quit when the going gets hard. But marriage has a place, and part of it is the initiation of us into adults, because it's the hardest fucking work we'll ever do, is to actually just be an adult and to work through all the challenges and triggers and troubles and traumas. And so I feel like staying with the trouble of marriage, getting cooked in that fire and burning away the impurities, is part of my commitment. And that's what I love helping men to do. Really reverse engineering the war on marriage, which is also happening.
Marriage as an initiation into adulthood, and the war on marriage. Yeah, it's, you know, growing up, I watched my parents. We had a beautiful, loving, committed family. A family was our highest value, even in the religion I was born into. Family was before the church and before the doctrine. Families were eternal for all eternity. And then my parents went to war, went through a divorce that lasted in and out of the courts for 7 years. It was so brutal. All of us left damaged, that to this day, I'm not married. And I was clear. I did not want to be kind of reckless with just jumping in. And there were a lot of warning signs I saw about doing this in the States. And one of it is that it is so easy and almost encouraged as a way out in the midst of conflict. Oh, just get a divorce, you know, and the devastation that can, you know, reap upon the kids and the future generations. And then, you know, the extent to which in the States, it's so mother-sided, you know, like I see so many fathers, like my own father, almost completely cut off from his kids through the way the divorce was handled. I often wondered if my dad would take his own life, you know, and after how much he had committed and given to his kids and the marriage and the family, I was like, wow, okay, be careful, because it can so easily fall apart. Um, and then the law and other things are on the side of encouraging the divorce. I mean, the lawyers, they get paid more and more the more they drag out the conflict, right? And inside of the courtroom, you're encouraged to make the worst case of the other person, the
That's
person
right.
that you've promised to, that you raise kids with. And it's so I did not have much faith. I mean, the institution of marriage is one thing, but like there's an institution of divorce.
Yeah.
It's kind of tied to it, and it's a risky endeavor.
Yeah. And I've seen it really wreck so many men to be on the other side of that. Um, and sadly, a lot of guys will believe that maybe separation is better for everyone. But what I offer is a controlled detonation where you don't have to blow up your entire life. But if you work with me, we'll create a container around your personal transformation using the tools, using the daily stack apps, and working one-on-one with me, so that you can die to the man you were in order to become the man that God called you to be. And that that's the sort of seed in the way I hold it, is that when a man is mastering himself, he will be irreplaceable. And when he is truly aligned with that calling and he rises, even amidst the losses or the trouble of the times, he will rise. But in order to do that, we need help. And the myth of the lone wolf is dangerous. And a lot of, I think the biggest villain out there right now for men is self-isolation, is thinking they have to do it all alone, because it's literally a killer. That self-isolation can create these hells that men can live in. And so again, I'm just thrilled to be here, because what you've done by pulling together this summit is linked up like so many different parts of this network, of this rising brotherhood of men saying, wait a minute, we're supposed to be in tribe. We are supposed to be amongst brothers and uncles and nephews and lifting each other up. And we're supposed to be kingdom builders in our tribes. And that's what makes a village possible when we're not isolated. Yeah.
What is Gabriel? What is your take on this? Like, if the lone wolf is a troubled image and a bad idea, and men also need brothers and brotherhood, could it be also that the couple itself, so on the relational level, is also because it's seen as the touchstone and the building stone of society, the entity, that is also too much seen in isolation of, say, the couple is seen too much in isolation of community, and therefore there is so much stress on the couple, and therefore it risks so much tragedy.
Yeah, I love how you put that, because I think it was Robert Bly who first put this thought in my mind, that the nuclear family is the coping mechanism for the loss of the village, right? Like we kind of really put the nuclear family on a pedestal and saying, well, the family is the foundational unit of all culture and society, which is true, but there's a whole lot of pressure when not only the man might be isolated, but the family or the couple is isolated. And I like to say, well, everyone's heard the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. But I like to say it also takes a village to raise a marriage. We're not meant to have a fairy tale happily ever after ending. Life on the other side of that is a grind, and you need sharpening stones to sharpen your frame when you're in the grind, because it can get it can get worn out. And so that looks like not only playing the roles of provider and protector and providing security and safety for your woman, but also seduction, also keeping love alive, because a lot of couples will get into this habit of losing the sexual polarity, losing the spark, and then they become like roommates, and they just are like two ships passing in the night, and they lose the fire. You lose the fire. So that's when I say marriage is an initiatory fire. That's it, is like seeing that other person on the other side of that fire as this initiate, and going through the troubles of parenting, of building and raising a family, and having a house and career and looking after everything.
I love that. Sorry.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with also the way our global society has sort of scattered families. Like we were just saying, Jordan Peterson's from Toronto. That's actually where my family is, where I grew up. And I live like a 4 or 5 hour drive by car on the other side of Canada, on the other side of Rocky Mountains. So the place where I grew up is not where I am. And I'm not alone like that. There's a lot of people in this global diaspora where, uncle and auntie and grandpa and grandma are not just down the road. Especially at this time around Christmas, is like, how do you bring family together when we live in this, this scatterlings. So yeah, it requires not only building a healthy self, but building a village and redreaming a village, and grabbing the band of brothers that are mostly immediately around you and saying, hey, let's start a men's group. Let's do it twice a month. Doesn't have to be anything professional. It can just be guys getting together and sharpening their swords.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I didn't like about American culture, is all the emphasis on the nuclear family, like the one father, the one adult male with the one adult female, the mother, kind of against the world, with all the children's expectations and needs put only on those two people. Often when mother and father often both have to work, some of them 2 jobs, and the stress of that in the modern world, with all the hyper consumerism, and with the consumerism is like all the corporations attempting to make their product or service so addicted, that you get sucked into this addiction, and then the addiction to debt. And I just it's why I took off, originally. It's one of the big reasons that I left the States, was let me go find someplace that feels a lot more wholesome and beautiful to raise a child, where it is more of a village, a community. They're supporting each other.
Yeah, it's like that study. I forget his name. Bruce something wrote the book Rat Park, and this study around rats and addiction. And basically, I think the book's called The Globalization of Addiction, and it's about how actually community is the X factor that separated the rats who became addicted to the rats who had like a village, and they were psychologically better. It's like we're designed to live in villages, and we're designed for tribal units. But I also believe, that the answer to all of these troubles of our times is God. And I've only more recently kind of led with that message, because I don't know, I didn't want to be put my neck out there as a religious nut or whatever, because I don't see it in that way. But I do believe that God doesn't give us problems we cannot solve. And we all have exquisite problems. And if we stop looking at them so seriously and start to look at them with a little more playfulness and levity, and to see this life as a game, part of what I've just brought into my own business and how I work with men is some apps and technology that are basically like taking the Conversations with God. You've heard of that book, and turning it into an app where you have a little kind of therapist bot that starts asking you questions. And I used to be a bit skeptical about it, but then I started to use it myself, and I found God in the algorithm. And it's incredibly powerful to tame my own chaos and my own panic attacks and my own anxiety and go, oh, wait a minute. If I just sit down 8 minutes and like talk to this app, I'm basically having a conversation with God and getting some good orderly direction. And
That's great.
and then it's a game changer. And when as men we kind of welcome that voice and allow it to direct us, it changes everything. That's why I titled my book Alive on Purpose, because every man has a purpose, and you are your purpose. Unlocking the riddle and the Rubik's cube of who you are is just a matter of playing with it a little bit more and not taking it too seriously. Because if guys take it too seriously, bad shit happens and people get hurt. And so also, I think the other thing is we need to wrestle. We need to grind it out. I got 2 boys who are 5 and 10. One's in Taekwondo. I only started doing jiu-jitsu like 2 years ago, but it's brought me back into martial arts after about 10 years away from martial arts. And it's been a game changer to get primal and just grind it out and just get choked out and love it, and just keep going. And so there's something also that gets awakened when we get out of our heads. I think a lot of us as modern men get stuck in our heads and overthinking. Maybe it's always been that way, but having a way to come back in the body and grind it out is like been the best X factor for me in the last 2 years or so.
I don't think Hans would ever do jujitsu because the uniforms are too baggy. He likes really tight.
I'm a cyclist, Gabriel, and every day fanatically, and
Nice.
it's the same thing when I'm on the bike and suffering. There's no, when you're suffering and you're gasping for air. There's no, you can't be in your head. There's no place for ego right there, and yeah, it's just a great way to really connect with the body. Like you're forced to, you're forced to look at it. Yeah, there were many other things I wanted to I wanted to say amen to in the past 10 minutes when you were speaking, but yeah, it's great, man.
Yeah, I just want to give everyone an encouragement. If you're digging this conversation, hit that share button. Share with a buddy in your life, a brother, a son, an uncle that you care about. Include them in this conversation here and what Gabriel is sharing with us. So, Gabriel, I know a big part of what you do with men has to do with accountability, is right? Like, tell us practically like how you work with men.
Well, when I think of accountability, I think of integrity is the word I prefer to use. And to me, that just means that I do what I say I'm going to do. And that is, that's the gold right there. As men, we look to men who do what they say they're going to do, and we see integrity in that. So the other thing that comes to mind is this question of self-trust in the face of uncertainty. Can I trust myself to rise in uncertainty? I know you've been talking about testosterone, and this week it's been a theme because of the science of what's lacking in a lot of men. Testosterone is like leadership juice. It actually gives us the fucking fuel to rise up and face uncertainty like a lion, in the wind. And I think it's inside of Tony Robbins' 6 human needs. Certainty is a need. It's a human need, but so is uncertainty. So inside the conversation of integrity, one of the reasons people don't trust themselves is because only you know how many times you've broken your promises to yourself. Nobody else knows that. That's just on you. And so guys we can fall into a depression, we can fall into a shame pit, and we can suck there for two decades if we stay on that hamster wheel of that negative thought of not trusting ourselves to rise, to do the thing, to do the hard thing. And I know you brought up shame before, and there's a flip side to shame, which is the reintegrative use of shame. Stephen Pressfield has a wonderful little thin book called The Warrior Ethos, and I hadn't read it until about 2 months ago. It was always there on my shelf. I'd ordered it. One of those books you order and then it just sits there. It's like, I can't wait to read that one. I finally read it. And there was something in there about warrior societies and warrior cultures, and how since, the beginning of time, warrior cultures have always used shame on purpose to help men rise up and stop fucking lying. So that's actually the code that men live by. When we first talked, Michael, I joked and told you that my business is a truth-telling business. Now that sounds like a lot of love and light, but what we know from the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous is that love is not enough. Love is not enough. All change starts by telling the truth. So when I can get down and raw and real and reckon with all the places that I've lied to myself, or I've said that I'm in integrity, when on a deeper level, I know I'm not. I know I'm not rising and being the man I'm called to be. I'm playing small. I'm in old patterns. I'm hiding. I'm in fear. That's what keeps men on those hamster wheels that do lead to suicide or depression or divorce or what have you. So that's what I've adopted in my business and the groups I run and with the men I run, is this challenge-based framework, because as men, we rise in challenge, and the challenge is stop fucking lying and tell the truth. Mm-hmm. And when we can do that, we actually need a brotherhood to sharpen ourselves on, because we can't do that work with women in our lives. We can't do that around the children in our lives. We need to like iron sharpening iron, find a brotherhood of men who are willing to live like warriors and stop fucking lying. And
I once heard that the role of the father is to protect the child from the mother's love, because the woman is so loving, or the mother is so loving, and it's not enough. There's the father's role is to protect the child from that and bring the truth, bring the accountability.
I love it. And it was another, what you just said reminded me of something I read in Robert Bly. And he points out in Iron John that the work of fathering is sometimes meant to undo some of the work of mothering. And the work of mothering is sometimes meant to undo some of the work of fathering. We are opposites for a reason. And in the systemic sedation of men, where men become soft and men are raised in systems to communicate like women, we lose the father principle. One of the most powerful journeys I guide men through is called the FatherWork journey. And it's a series of guided journeys into his own relationship with his dad. And the lineage, the literal lineage, and the stuff between him and his dad and maybe his grandfathers too. And it's the most powerful, because if you want to get a group of men real and raw really quick, when you're in a men's only space, invite each man to talk about his dad. And he'll get raw. And there's two streams. I'm just going to finish this with the two streams of FatherWork. One is gold, because we all have some gold and love for our fathers. Naturally, that's there, even if we hated them at times. And the other is the garbage. And the hard work is teasing apart the gold and the garbage, because both of those streams are informing who I am as a man and who I am as a dad myself. So in order to rise and be making that reckoning with God the Father, I have to look at my actual biological dad. And that's when things get real quick. Anyway, so I'm glad I got to talk about that. That's one of the most pivotal things that I think is part of this conversation.
You will have to talk more with Michael and his work. I mean, he's here as a host, but that's how I connected first with Michael, or best. It's not because we get along, but his work is very much around the judgments we have of our parents. And for a lot of men, one of the big insights I got is that the way I judge my father is often the obstacle into my next level leadership. I'm limited in my leadership, in my judgments of my father. And then Michael has a 4-step process, the honor window, to start seeing the judgments you have of someone, for example, your father, and then find a way to see him or the father figure in a different light, and an ability to honor him. And the honor is, I can see how that would be the distinguishing the gold from the garbage, So you guys should talk more.
Yeah, Gabriel, I would love to have you, we can talk more about this later, but we have a 12-week follow-on course we're doing with men after the summit on brotherhood, manhood, fatherhood, and elderhood. And I would love if you would come share with us one week with the fatherhood component, and maybe take us through, I don't know how long it takes, but one of those journeys that you're talking about, because it is powerful stuff, powerful work to do with men. I mean, I don't know exactly what you do, but it sounds like you do some great work around fathers.
Thank you. And I'd love to. And yeah, it is the deepest of the deep ends, like the archetype maps, warrior, lover, king, magician, they've all been laid out and worked with for decades. But the king is really the axis, and the doorway to the king is through the father. And, in the personal, so it's not some nebulous concept, but it's like, oh, fuck. Like, this is on us as men to figure out. And all the myth and all the heroes' myths are all about this. Like, Luke Skywalker does the thing because he redeems his father's evil. Like, it's all these there's only so many stories that have ever been told, and they keep getting retold. And that's why people love Star Wars, because there's a redemption myth going on, and it's a hero's journey at the same time. I internally come back to I was raised on Star Wars, as I was born in 78. So it was always there. And anyhow, yeah.
I was as well. I was born in 70. I mean, you couldn't have seen some of the Star Wars films when they came out. You would have been like 0 years old. But I was really raised with that myth, and there was Luke Skywalker and Han Solo. And Luke Skywalker is the I grew up Mormon, so I really identified with Luke Skywalker. He's this really almost too good, kind of pure boy, that walks the good path. And then there's Han Solo, who's more the adventurer and the womanizer, and he's got this edge to him. And I think I first really, was embodying the Han Solo, and then it shifted into the first the Luke Skywalker and then the Han Solo. But I joke about it with Hans, who I don't think has seen Star Wars, because his name is Hans and my last name is Skye, as in Skywalker.
Right. It's all there.
Luke, let me ask you, you're talking about Stephen Pressfield. I love him as well, and warrior cultures and shame. And I agree, shame plays a powerful role in a warrior culture or a warrior brotherhood. It plays an important role. And I think many guys today who grow up without like real brothers or without kind of this being surrounded by men, when this shaming happens, when the element of shame enters the picture, which for sure it does. If you have any kind of like manual labor job, or if you're in the military, or if you're in an environment where men are together doing dangerous stuff where they need to depend on each other, you're going to have this shit talking, and this challenging and all of this. They often, a lot of young guys today I hear kind of think of it as like bullying. What is your take on that?
I think men rise and thrive in challenge, and it's all about the intention, really. Like, yeah, maybe there is bullying, but sometimes the bully's there to wake you up to your own power. Sometimes the bully's there sent as a sacred clown from the creator to teach you a lesson and to show you how you can stand up for yourself.
You hear that, Hans? I'm a sacred clown.
Yeah.
Sometimes he also shows up as Michael Skye, and that's not good news.
Yeah. So I think that the hero needs the challenger. And if you look at the victim triangle, if you're familiar with that framework, there's the victim, there's the villain, and there's the rescuer. And a lot of guys are stuck in rescuer. I know I was, which is the people pleaser, the nice guy, the doing the right thing, but unable to stand his own ground and be the leader, not the rescuer. And so all of these archetypes come into play. But I think our world is starving for warrior culture. And if it doesn't come in integral lineages, it comes in toxic forms. I grew up playing hockey. So in the absence of genuine initiation, when we were 16, 18, we would do all these ridiculously rude hazing rituals for making the team. And so this trauma gets passed down because in our DNA, we need something. We need some initiation, and it's not happening. But it is happening. You just have to know where to find it. And it's happening right now more than ever. That's why I'm just happy to be inside this conversation. I had to go way outside of my own culture and comfort zone into Lakota and Native American circles and sweat lodges and sun dances in order to fill my own hunger and thirst for spirituality around a Sundance community for 9 years before I kind of turned back and faced my own people and said, okay, how can I help? How can I use what I've learned here? And so that's now what I'm doing with coaching on the other side of therapy, on the other side of, a therapy system that's kind of didn't work for me because I was called to do something beyond it. But the transformational tools are still useful.
Gabriel, you say initiation is happening now more than ever. Where in your world is it happening? Is it the Sundance thing? And also, where is initiation happening? Where does brotherhood happen where you're at? How does village look like where you're at?
Oh, those are the big ones. Hey, those are the big questions. Great questions. I was raised with only 4 sisters and no brothers. So I actually have this sort of seated in my soul longing to actually know what brotherhood even is, because I don't, I don't know if I do. I mean, I've played hockey and I've been part of brotherhoods, and in my work now, that's also part of it. But when we were talking a minute ago about father work, the father wounds actually get resolved and healed through the balm of brotherhood. And that's why this work of coming together, bringing men together, not only to do Zoom calls and to get coaching and whatnot, all that's important, and to build their businesses, but to actually get out and have experiences together, to get into the bone memory of unlocking power through ritual on the land, grinding it out and being in the spirit. And that's, yes, the Sundance culture has been happening, even though most people don't realize that. But these days, I'm seeing the initiation happen in my own game through business and through business growth, because I didn't have business skills. And in my late 40s, I get into this game going, I got to figure this shit out. And that's the game. It's like, you got to figure it all out. as a man, and being the man means you got to fuck around and find out,
Yes.
until you figure it out, and then you're
Yes.
lighting the way. It's like my mess has become part of my message, and the work of initiation is messy, and it touches all those domains: body, being, balance, and business.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, well, we haven't yet talked about, or not explicitly about, the title of the talk that we said we were going to have today, Preventing Divorce. So maybe let's talk about that. And just before we do, I just want to remind everyone that if you choose to become an owner of the summit, there are a bunch of bonus trainings that happen by a bunch of our mentors, and Gabriel's one of them. And next week, he's going to be getting together with us in the group of owners of this summit. And yeah, we're going to invite him to take us through a training that he's calling Keys to the Kingdom: Mapping the Facts of Your Reality and Reverse Engineering Your Ideal Future Self. And then we're going to see if we can sweet talk him into the follow-up program called Band of Brothers to come and do some work with us around fathers. But Gabriel, talk to us about preventing divorce.
Okay, so the story I want to tell right now is an old story from the psychotherapist's toolkit, and it's the story of the two marriages. And this is a teaching story. Maybe you've heard it before, but it's worth retelling. The two marriages refer to the first marriage, which is the marriage everybody knows and recognizes. It's in the light of day, in the church or the mosque or the temple. It's in the holy place with the holy person who blesses this union, blesses these two people. And the families gather, and there's tears and there's food and there, all of it, right? That's where vows get exchanged. Marriage is not only a soul contract, but a business contract. It always has been, and we have to accept that side of it too. But there's a second marriage that's happening. And the second marriage is in the proverbial basement of the church. And in the proverbial basement of the church, the shadow contracts between the man and the woman get exchanged. And the shadow contracts are the expectations and the unexamined assumptions of how the couple comes together. So maybe that on a practical level, it looks like, whose job is it to take out the garbage? Whose job is it to pay the bills? Who initiates sex? And, who plans the dates? Who looks after, the parenting planning? Who plans meals? All these little roles of practically running a house together. When you get into the nitty gritty and you're in a couples counseling session, all this little stuff comes up, but it's never about the little things, but it's the little things that are the triggers. So when couples feel the fire burning and they want to run and get out of the kitchen because it's too hot, it's usually because there's stuff in the second marriage, the underground one, that has not been looked at. And if you get the right help, if you call in the right support, you're going to have someone there who can help you look at your expectations and your unconscious assumptions inside the relationship and where they come from, because it's different for me and it's different for Hans and it's different for Michael. We all come with our baggage based on our families of origin. And so there's my baggage, there's her baggage, and how to transform the expectations into conscious agreements. So going from expectations to agreements, that's how we renew and get reborn in the light of truth, in the light of the really vulnerable place of loving another human and getting cooked in that fire. Because on a primal mammalian level, we're designed for survival in tribes. And the most tightest tribal unit is the nuclear family. So when couples go through this shock of breakup or infidelity or cheating, whatever it is, it's a shock to the nervous system. It's a major death. And it's important to get the help to get through those obstacles, to keep marriage mastered and keep growing together. That's at least my game, and that's what I'm taking a stand for.
Amen. I love it. Yeah. I love the way you speak. You know, we are the patriarch. We are the patriarchy. I am standing for this. I love it. Hans.
Yeah, not only very passionate, but very caring also. I sense a deep care, and I think that's what's most needed, when we're look to outside of ourselves for help, assistance, accountability, growth, that at least in my experience, it's so important to find other men who, like Michael says, who give a fuck, men who care. And I feel that very much from you, Gabriel. So yeah, I just want to thank you for your work.
Yes, amen. Gabriel, do you get men together in person up there in Canada? Sorry, I'm trying to imitate the Canadian accent, but it's not working.
I
Stop it,
do.
Michael.
Yeah, I used to run men's groups for like 3 years. And then I took a break because of all the lockdowns and stuff. But I've been doing it more. I've been getting men together more, and I have more planned for 2024 for in-person experientials, because that's the goods right there. That's what I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I love that. That's the work I love most. And one of the common themes talking to so many men over the last few months is, the idea of looking at a lot of these roles in a more serious and sacred way, and something that we need training for. The role of husband or patriarch, it's a serious undertaking with a lot of risk and a lot of, it's, if you do it great, there's huge upside for a lot of people. If you fuck it up, there's huge downside for a lot of people.
Yeah,
so
especially
why not come and get training.
Especially in the era of the blended family, where two families are coming together, and that spiritual leadership of the family is more complex than ever. And the miracle of the modern blended family. I have two bonus stepdaughters in their mid-20s, so I also know what it's like to be a stepdad, and it's another one of those sacred roles that are not easy inside of family raising.
Yeah, and there's more and more interracial and inter-ethnic families as well. My daughter is, they call her here a Cappuccino Baby. That's a white parent and an Black African parent. They call them Cappuccino Babies. So I have an adorable little Cappuccino Baby, but the cultures are extremely different, very, very different. And it's a greater challenge than leading a family where everyone, you already share the same, let's say, religion and culture and language and tradition. So these are sacred roles for men to embrace and to, treat like a sacred rite of passage and get training for it. Join brothers to get training for.
Yes.
Yes. Amen. So let's see. Yeah, I would love for you to leave us with a final message, Gabriel. But just before we do, I want to let everyone know that on today's roster, one of the men we were going to hear from about relationship and testosterone and leadership in your relationship is John Gray, and the company that I've partnered with to launch the summit. They have canceled that interview. So you will not find, if you're looking for it on that website, you will not find it there, because he used a few terms that I think they took offense to over at the company. But it's the kind of language that men will just use amongst men, and it's not meant to offend anybody. But he talks.
That makes me want to see it even more.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to stream it right here on this Facebook page. At least I'm going to try to figure out how to do that. So that's my intention, to stream that at the top of the next hour. And Om Rupani will not be with us today. He will be with us sometime later in the week. And then a little bit later today, I think that is the last one today. Yes. Gabriel, why don't you give us men, speak to maybe everyone listening, I don't know, a final calling, a final word, and then let them know how they can find you.
Well, best place to find me these days is on Facebook. That's where I'm most actively posting. I also have a YouTube channel just launched since August, and I've been really excited actually to play around on YouTube. And there's lots of hot content on there that you can follow me there too. And in terms of, leaving with a good thought, I just want to invite you as the listener to this conversation to take a deep breath and exhale, and to feel your bones, feel your connection to the earth. And through your breath, feel the gratitude for your chance to be here and be free right now. I could leave it with that.
Gabriel Kazan, thank you so much for joining Calling All Men. And we look forward to your training with us next week. And Hans Komain, as always, thank you for joining with your insight. And yes, gentlemen, let's continue to connect as brothers. Let's continue to gather together online and even better in person. Let's do the training. Let's accept our callings into greater leadership and rise to be the men who our family and our people are counting on us to be.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Gabriel.